Malaysia Diecast Expo 2026 is right around the corner. As of shooting this video, it's about approximately a week away, starting from today. But in this video, I wanted to discuss two different topics. First, we'll talk a little bit about the show that's coming up, MDX. And then I also wanted to talk about Mini GT's icons that have been finalized for the event. So let's first start off with the event. It's going to be the 23rd and 24th of this week of May. And ironically enough, this time it's actually not going to be conflicting with the other show called the Model Car Show, which I think is still happening. I didn't do any research on that, but I believe that is still around. And with approximately 1 week to go, to be quite honest, I haven't seen too much hype or buzz around it. I know the MDX team has been posting up some stuff on social media here and there, some of the vendors, things like that. But to be honest, I haven't seen anything when it comes to the exclusive models that are going to be there. And a lot of the brands that I think I recall coming from last year have not been announced yet, unless they're just doing it last minute. So far as the lineup goes, nothing too crazy because, again, this was segmented last year when it came to the Model Car Show and MDX, so some of the brands actually split up. But in this case with MDX, you're going to be getting Mini GT and Kaido House. They're always going to come in a pair. You're going to be getting Mini Champs, which is a German brand that is making an appearance this year. You're going to be getting Majorette, that's going to be there this year. G-Fans and a brand called Kraken House, which they both specialize in 64 scale dioramas. You're also going to be getting CM Model, which has been teasing a little bit of an exclusive release and what all they're going to be bringing this year. And then the only other brand that I've seen is Dream Custom so far. So those are the guys that makes those little parking lot mats. But this year, I haven't seen any Jada Toys. I haven't seen any Tomica TLVN being announced for MDX. GT Spirit M2 AW Machine was also a part of it last year. And they even had like an exclusive RWB section, if I recall, last year, which was dedicated to everything Raw Welt. Now, this year, I think it's just more focused on the brands that I mentioned, and maybe some vendor tables and people just bringing their own stuff could be a bigger part of the event this year. But if you've heard anything else, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm missing out on some things, and I'm sure there's going to be some more news coming out since it does have a week left. But now let's move on to the Mini GT Icon lineup. So this is a panel of the biggest names that Mini GT is rounding up to talk about their big latest launch, which is probably going to be related to the Fast and Furious line, right? Based on the people that's coming. You've got Glenn, you've got June, you've got Mr. Yokomaku-san of Velside, and then you've got Cody Walker and Sean Lee. So these are going to be considered the icons that are showing up. And the one thing that Mini GT has not done yet is they have not officially released any of the exclusives that they're going to be bringing to the table between the two brands of Mini GT and Kaido House. So there's nothing that has been announced as of yet. But if I had to guess, it might be something related to the Fast and Furious. Personally, it's not something that's super exciting in terms of the people that are showing up. Glenn and June, of course, by default, right? Those guys are already going to be coming because they've always come during MDX. They're always going to be there promoting the brand, be on stage, talk about it, and things like that. Now, last year, they didn't have some of these icons there, and I get that. So let's go on to the next guy, Mr. Yokomaku, which is the founder, president. So pretty big in the Fast and Furious franchise because a lot of Velside's products have been incorporated into the iconic cars. So his appearance makes sense. Glenn has also been doing some Velside collaborations when it comes to the R32, the Supra, and the RX-7. We've seen some of those release already. So now it's time to shine with the Fast and Furious IP of things and come out with some of the Fast and Furious Velside related products. So the ones that come to mind are going to be Dom's RX-7, Han's RX-7, which they already have that tooling for. Johnny Tran's S2000 had a Velside kit on there. Suki's S2000, is it Suki? I forget her name. The pink S2000, Suki, that also had a Velside kit on there. And then last but not least, DK's from Tokyo Drift, the 350Z also had a Velside, some Velside tidbits on there as well. And talk a little about maybe his involvement in the movies. That's all I can think of anyway. The one thing that I hope Mini GT does not do, and I think they've been pretty good about this, is I hope that they do not put silly liveries and reverse liveries on different types of casting. So I think Mini GT will do a good job and keep it more based, grounded, and cater to what actually existed in real life. But now let's go to the next guys here. We got Sean Lee. I don't know too much about Sean. I know he's tied to the Purist group. I think he founded that group. They do a lot of charity work. I've seen that in the past. So I think at face value, it looks like he's doing great stuff. Personally, I don't see what his tie-in is to the Fast and Furious movies, but it seems like everywhere that Mr. Cody Walker is going to, Sean Lee is there right with him. He's always been there for Cody whenever the tragic events happen with his brother. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys can expand on that history, but I've just always felt like there's something between those two that are just very obvious as to what the relationship is like. But again, like I said, if Cody Walker is showing up to some event, call it Fuel Fest or some car event or some Fast and Furious promotional thing, if Cody's there, Sean Lee is always going to be there. Kind of strange in my opinion, but he will be there. And last but not least, we've got the Temu version of Paul Walker. Guys, I'm just joking. I'm joking, okay? Rest in peace, Paul Walker. Some of you guys may have your own opinions about Paul Walker, but in any case, it was tragic. So Cody Walker is coming in to support and take on some of the initiatives that Paul left behind. And I think specifically like the charitable side and promotion of the movie, I think he's involved with a lot of that. So he's been doing a good job. And like I said, Sean's always there to hold his hand to make sure that maybe he's guiding him in the right way because he's more on the charitable side of things. But I'm sure Cody Walker is super awesome, super down to earth, humble as can be. And I'm sure even outside of the Fast and Furious stuff, he does have his own life that he lives. So I don't see Cody as being like the Paul Walker, super invested into the Japanese car scene and all that stuff, right? He's just there for the fun factor, the vibe factor, and to be able to support where he can and how he can. And I think he's supposed to be in the next Fast and Furious movie in some shape or form. I'm not sure. I know I've heard some rumors about that. But I haven't seen any Fast and Furious movies since like the third one, so I'm not the best one to go for some of these references. But what's the history between Sean and Cody? I have no idea. Let me know down in the comments if you know anything that I don't know, and I'll love to hear some of those theories. But like I said, the lineup is a little bit weak. I think if you're going to kick off something as big as Fast and Furious, which I know they did an announcement for it at a previous event a few weeks back, but I think this is the first time they're actually going to be able to explain things. And maybe this could have been a last minute roundup because some of the bigger players that are tied to the movie could not make it because they're out doing their own things. For example, Sung Kang is out promoting his movie. So, and I know he knows Glenn. They've hung out before. They've seen each other at many events. But maybe the timing wasn't right. But Sung could have been a great person to add to that panel. And he could be in a future announcement, especially when the Velside RX-7 comes out. And there's also Vin. There's Michelle. There's Rick, Chad, and Noel. Chad and Noel are always out at Fast and Furious events. I know they make appearances, love signing merch and things like that. So those guys are still available. And I think there's just a lot of things that Mini GT can expand on here. But the biggest name that I feel like they're forgetting, and I have him on my Facebook friends list for whatever reason, is Craig Lieberman himself, all right? This is the guy that was in charge of all the cars in the Fast and Furious movies. I think the first two maybe, right? So to have somebody like him, I think come in and give insight or his take on things would have been another awesome feat, and maybe even be included in some of the diecast releases. Because he actively has a channel, talks about Fast and Furious lore all the time, all the things that went into building the cars, how many cars there were, and just all that stuff is in Craig's brain. So it would be great to be able to extract that some of that stuff and maybe turn it into diecast. And again, guys, I don't want you to take this as some knock to Mini GT. It's just an opinion, and this is just my own opinion, but I think the lineup could have been a little bit better. Okay, a little bit better with all the resources that are out there. I guess for Glenn and the team to be able to put something together is better than nothing. But what are you looking forward to for MDX? And what are you looking forward to for the Fast and Furious release announcement? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.